Prepare to disappoint the goddess
running out of time.
Alanis!
Hardly working or workly harding.
Damn it!
Make my own temple. Brilliant pitch. Here's another one. Anyone else looking to collaborate?
Don't you speak those words!
I don't play by the rules. Even that one. So I play by the rules. My rules.
From the Great North to Wonder Wharf. All right.
All right, that intro still is sketchy on my end, but hopefully it looks good to everybody on the other end.
Everyone says it looks good on their end, so hopefully that's true.
Okay. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to a brand new episode of From the Great North to Wonder Wharf, your one-stop destination for bento box information. As always, I am Mike.
And I'm JB.
And as you can see, we have a special guest here with us tonight. We're going to give him a dope introduction, and I'm going to make this look so great. It's going to sound so good, I swear. All right, here we go. Hey, North to Warfers. Today we are in for a treat as we sit down with one of the very talented animators at Bento Box Entertainment. We first noticed his amazing work while watching Wolf Get Angry on the Great North and have loved seeing his work sprinkled in all our favorite cartoons ever since. He has worked as an animator and has been in storyboarding in some capacity for 9 years, and he is currently the retake director on Bob's Burgers. Please help us welcome the very talented Erin Humiston. Erin.
Hello.
How are you?
I am very well. I'm very excited. Can't wait to do this.
I'll put you in the hot seat. Yeah, we'll get into it, but JB and myself have been huge fans ever since we saw, again, Wolf losing his mind in that very first episode. You have such a way with just capturing like movement. It's very cinematic. We're not in the industry, we don't know the terms, but it's very Disney-esque to me. Yeah, lifelike.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's been my dream ever since college, so it means a lot to hear that people are really enjoying what I do.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And the great thing is you have a very distinct style that is immediately, oh, that's Erin. Oh, that's Erin. Mm-hmm. And like not a lot of folks can say that, so that's very cool.
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to remember. We had was it Wendy and Lizzie were on, and we brought up a scene, and they're like, "Oh, that's Erin's for sure."
Oh yeah,
like if you can see the fluidity of it, and it seems very lifelike, and there's a lot more gesture and movement, they're like, "That's him."
Thanks. Well, I mean, it's definitely been quite a treat working on the show, and just the fact that they let me do that. I mean, you know, you do kind of run the risk of like going a little too far from show style, but they've been really letting me just have fun. So I couldn't feel more, lucky, I guess.
Well, we're going to jump right into our questions that we have here and hopefully have a good time, have fun. If you feel too pressured, feel free to just cut the stream and storm out of here. It against you, not a big deal.
We don't want to also get you in trouble. So if there's any questions where we're like, hey, so what should we expect? Like, season 15 of Bob's, let us know. Yeah, I'm not gonna talk about that part.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't even know. I mean, I can. Well, if I could give away anything, it would only be just a couple episodes beyond what you've seen already. So,
well, we're gonna start off with a softball question, something super easy, something that doesn't really take a lot of thinking or deep thought. Where did you grow up, and what kind of childhood did you have? It's a very therapist kind of question.
I grew up in Colorado, Southwest Colorado, mountain town, just a little tiny mountain town, and I think my graduating class was like 50 people of high school. So yeah, teeny tiny little place, and so I drew a lot. I was the kid that whenever there was an art project needed, everyone would run to me to help them with their art project. And yeah, I've drawn all my life. My dad still has my bedroom was in the basement, and he still has all the old drawings that I did when I was a kid. I drew all over my walls. I did these big murals. I watched.
Very cool.
I don't know if you're aware of it. It was called Mark Kistler's Draw Squad, Draw. It was on PBS. He was kind of this cartoony version of like Bob Ross, and he'd have this. He had this show, and he would draw. He'd have like this big wall, and he'd add a little bit to it every show, and so that was kind of my teacher as a kid, and so I would draw on all my wall, but he would do these little space creatures and stuff, and it was really cute. And I was obsessed with video. I still am obsessed with video games. So all my drawings were like of Yoshi. I had a fascination with Yoshi from Mario Brothers, and I drew Yoshi everywhere, all over my walls. And it's still there, I think.
Are you playing anything currently?
Yeah.
I just downloaded the Octopia DLC.
Oh, Eastward. Yeah, I love Eastward.
Eastward. Yes.
Super cool pixel art game.
I freaking love Eastward.
Such a cool game.
I know. And so now I'm playing the DLC. And, I'm big into Animal Crossing and stuff too. So that little DLC thing was like, oh, perfect.
It was $5. I just downloaded it. So
yeah. It's keeping all the fun humor and quirkiness in there, and so it's pretty fun.
I'm currently making my way through the DLC of Power Wash Simulator still.
Oh, nice.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. If you haven't played it, check it out. In the chat, Answorth says, "Hi, Erin. Love from your friends in DC. Hand pink waving."
Woohoo, Andy. That's my buddy Andy.
Oh,
and
hello, Andy.
for the whole time, and maybe this will be a little secret thing, but for the whole time I was
that we're live.
I know.
Okay.
So, this is in the past. The whole time I was on Great North, I'll start off with this. On the Crocodile Rob episode on Great North.
Oh, great episode.
We needed a little tray for when all the food and stuff kind of appears when they're sitting when they're singing about it, and the food appears on the table in the Tobin house. I can't remember what it was called. It was some Mad Max meatballs or something like that. And we didn't have a design for it, so I just kind of sketched something up, and I drew like this bowl of meatballs with these wheels on it, like the big Mad Max wheels on them. And and I was just like, just something to throw in, just something as a placeholder. And it made it into the final, and I was like, oh crap, cool. So like what I draw in my red lines, they're gonna put that in the final. And so ever since then, I've been trying to get my buddy Andy into one of the episodes, and they keep not doing it. I tried to get him in the one episode with Zelda.
Yes.
I tried to sneak him into the yearbook when they opened the yearbook. I tried to get Andy in there, and they changed it, and I was like, darn it. So
that's a big thing they used to do, like back like in the day. They would like sneak people in, like our buddy Adam
Bob's. Yeah,
got snuck into an episode.
Yeah, there's actually, I was just working on a show where I just like, oh, there's some writer names in the background. Oh, cool.
I know Simon is in quite a few episodes along with his mom. So yeah, we're hoping they need two failed podcasters to show up in an episode.
Yes, we would love to be in so many episodes.
Well, I claimed one of the background characters in Great North. There's a guy with a goatee, and he's a little chubby, but not as chubby as me. But I'm like, all right, that's me. So
I did claim somebody in the movie.
Yeah, there's a gentleman in the movie with 3 very distinct blue star tattoos.
Ooh, okay.
I was like, that's a little too close for comfort, so I'm gonna put that on my resume now. So
anybody with a beard, I just claim.
Yeah.
That's just me.
Nice.
JB,
all right. I don't even remember where I was at. It was
Colorado, 50
Colorado.
people.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was South Park.
It was South Park.
Yeah, I was very South Parky, and kind of it definitely spoke to me when South Park came out. But and I think did they go to the Art Institute of Colorado? One of them, maybe.
I don't know off the top, but it would
Remember, but
not
anyway,
shock me at all.
yeah,
I can
anyway.
look and see a little bit.
JB, did you freeze?
I don't believe so. Did I?
Yes. Yeah. Well, I mean, Mario World was like that was one of those games where Mario 3 and Mario World were like Mario 3 was when that first came out. That was one of those things where like I almost like had an accident because I couldn't get away from the game. I was so enamored in it. And then Mario World was one of those games where I was up all night, like I didn't sleep at night, and I just played the game through the entire night. But
that was me with the original Mortal Kombat.
Yep.
I never got good at it, and I'm not good to this day. But I would stay up for hours just playing it and just getting my ass kicked every single time.
Oh yeah,
Ocarina of Time was mine.
Ocarina of Time. Oh yeah, yep.
Yeah. I would just sit there for hours and be like, I don't need to eat. I'm good.
Yeah. Awesome.
JB, you froze there for a second, but did you say question 2 or no? Did I miss that?
I can.
Okay.
Did you have a favorite cartoon growing up or cartoons that you feel it like helped you?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I was a 90s kid, late 80s 90s kid, so Animaniacs,
Yep.
Of
Simpsons,
course.
those were the two that I would really go out of my way to watch. When I got older, like when I was in middle school or high school, that's when I got into Samurai Pizza Cats.
I am not aware of what that is.
Oh, dude, it's so cool. It's an anime, but it was apparently the story is that the English translators, they didn't give them a script, so it was a very like light script, like barely a script. So the whole show is basically these really clever like Animaniacs level writers that are just kind of watching the show and sort of kind of interpreting it in their own little way. It's really a cool show if you ever get the chance to see it. It's really funny.
Apparently I'm the minority here, but I've never really picked up on anime, which is weird because I for a time grew up in Japan for a bit. Right when all that stuff was hitting hard, and I was like, nah, I'm good. I'm gonna play baseball. That stuff's for
nice.
I was like 8, so I was like, what the hell do I know? But I was like, I'm not gonna do that. But same with like Pokemon. That like wave completely missed me, even though it happened.
Me too.
So that's for nerds. You're right, Aaron. It's for nerds.
No, I played Red and Blue, but I kind of stopped after that.
I appreciate Pokemon, but and it never crossed my radar. I was too busy with other games like Crash Bandicoot and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Dirk Eric Schultz says, greetings from Berlin, Germany, 2 a.m. over there. Hello, Dirk.
Wow. Nice. Yeah, Dirk, I did that Popeye anime. He did a reanimate of a Popeye episode that I helped him on, and I'm actually helping him on. He's doing another one, so I'm helping him on that too.
Oh, nice.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, his artwork's wild and really good stuff. Everyone check out Dirk's work. It's really good.
Oh, let's see. I'll pull it. JB, continue the question. I'll pull up Dirk's Instagram. We'll give him a plug.
Yes, go for it. Okay, so question 3, favorite shows that you found inspirational for your art style. We went over that one. 4, when did you start exploring the idea of like making art, drawing, learning more skills about drawing, kind of like finding
I've always drawn as a kid since the beginning, since as far as I can remember. My parents were very, they saw that I liked drawing, so they always just made sure there was plenty of paper and pencils and crayons and stuff available to me. And they took me to, they gave me art classes. They're mostly like friends of theirs that were artists, but so they tried to keep my artistic ness, continual. But I didn't it was at the thing is, I went to the Art Institute of Colorado because it had a. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I knew it. I knew it had to be art related, like drawing related, and so I took. It's called Media Arts and Animation. So it did a little 2D, a little 3D. There's like Flash. There was illustration. There was it kind of ran the gamut of kind of commercial art, and
this was about 2002, 2003.
Yeah, about actually
Just getting
2000.
into it.
Yeah, 2001-ish, one-ish, two-ish.
So like computer stuff's getting pretty new at that point.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of new. Yeah, I mean, I learned 3D on 3D Max, 3ds Max. Is that what it was? I just don't use it anymore. But
I am a paralegal, so this is all French to me. So it's a 3000. Yeah, probably.
Yeah, like a good number.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like all the animation software I learned. I learned Photoshop. I learned old Photoshop and that was back when we had the tablets. We didn't have the screens. We had to draw on the tablets, and that was back when I was on DeviantArt.
We all know DeviantArt.
Oh yeah,
we all know DeviantArt.
That was my jam. DeviantArt was my jam. But it wasn't until I took my first 2D animation class and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, and I kind of just I was flipping. It was on paper, and I just kind of did the assignment, and then I had to test it. And since it was all on paper, I had the camera above, and I had to put in a sheet and take a picture, put in a new sheet, take a picture.
Wow.
And then I played it back, and it just snapped in my head. I remember there was like 2 or 3 of my friends behind me, and I played it, and all 4 of us just went, whoa. And from there, I was like, okay. It was just like, this is what I'm doing. And and sure enough, it's like, okay, well, now I need to figure out my path from here.
Yeah.
And then basically like a couple of months later was when Disney shut down the Florida studio. And I was like, oh, nice. Okay, well.
They're actively trying to hold you out. That's what they're doing. Yeah. Andy said in the chat here, Aaron also writes a comic book with his wife called Band. It's outstanding, and everyone should definitely check it out.
Yeah, it's band-comic.com if you want to get a little preview.
There you go, everybody. We'll put that, of course, in the description.
Yeah. Yes, we will.
Wait, JB, I completely spaced. What question were you on, JB?
I just asked, let's see.
Is that 5 or 6?
4. So then 5 we're kind of into, and a little bit of 6 now.
Okay, we'll just go 6. Was there a teacher or friend that kind of helped you get into animation, storyboard, or comics? And to kind of piggyback on that, did this always seem like a viable career option? Like, obviously, you wanted to do.
Well, like I said, that was when the Disney studio shut down. And I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
But
is this a sign?
Yeah. Well, it was just like, oh crap, what am I gonna do now? You know, because I mean, at the time, I mean, I was in college, so I wasn't very educated, and it was educated as far as like my options, you know, out there, and so I was. But I knew that's just what I wanted to do. There was no, you know, it kind of got to a point where I was like, you know, I have to try. And so I just kept doing it. And, and well, the thing was, I was so obsessed with 2D animation that our school had an animation lab, and I would just spend all my free time in the animation lab and working on new pieces and taking like old assignments and extending them as far as I could. And I mean, I'd just spend as much time as I could, you know, in that animation lab doing 2D animation. And so eventually I did a test, and I was, like I said, I was on DeviantArt, so I was posting them all on DeviantArt. And eventually I did a test that that somebody from Tampa saw. He was the lead animator for this studio in Tampa called Humoring the Fates. And it was a very tiny studio, so they probably didn't have a lot of money to spend on more staff, but I guess he convinced his boss to bring me out to Tampa, and that was my first 2D animation job with Humoring the Fates. But so I would say I kind of got that job on my own, just from constantly animating and sharing until finally something actually caught. And honestly, what it was the guy who got me the job. He said his boss saw that test and he's like, well, he's definitely not afraid of working. So and so that's definitely something that I try to put out there. It's like, if people always want that secret to getting a job in the industry. And I mean, that was what got me my first job, was just proving that, like, I am willing to work, because there's so much work involved. And so you got to prove that you're willing to get to that point of that footage, that mileage, of drawing.
That you can do the job and willing to put in the work.
Yeah, exactly.
It's wild because we've been doing this for about 3 years now, JB, 3 or 4 years, and we've heard 1,000 stories of how everybody got their break, and 1,000 different stories at that. So there's really no one path. So it's hard when somebody asks, like, "Oh, what do I need to do what you're doing?" And it's like, well, one person drove across country and didn't know they had a job till they got to Los Angeles.
Yeah.
The other person posted on DeviantArt, and the right person saw it. So it's such a crapshoot. It's so
other
interesting
people
to hear stories.
through like backgrounds for video games or made sprite animations, and somehow they're like, that led me to making this, and then it got noticed, and it's always an interesting story.
And it seems like there's a lot of people. It just, they have this crazy passion for it to start with, and usually, because for me, like when I do 2D animation, it's it's like, okay, I just did 300 drawings, and but it doesn't feel like it. It's just like, no, I got this guy to walk and swing a sword. It's and you don't realize, it's like, dude, that was like 300 drawings you did to do that, and it's like, well, if that's what it takes to get this done, then it's like, well, there it is.
Exactly.
So, and just like, just like it seems like a lot of those stories come from people who just, don't see it as work. It's always like, it's like, I got a job, doing storyboards because I was storyboarding my own little short, and I really wanted to make this short, and someone saw it and it's like, hey, you should board for me too, something like. It a lot of those stories just seem to spawn from that, and so maybe that's one of the keys, is just having that passion for it, where it doesn't feel like work.
I think that's, and I'm not artistic in the least. I'm more of the idea kind of guy, but that seems to be the one major thing. Is like, I'll talk to some folks, not necessarily who are in the industry currently, but just super talented friends that like, oh, I want to do this, this, and this. I was like, well, why don't you do your own thing and then build your work on that, and then eventually this is like, no, I want to jump 100 miles per hour right out the gate. Like, that's not going to happen, man. And then they give up like that, and I'm like, well, shit, man, you're the most talented person in the world that I know, but like, there's no drive, and I'm like, I can't help you. It's so frustrating. Jason Ho says Erin is one freaking talented animator.
Oh, thank you, Jason.
And then before I forget, Dirk Eric Scholes on Instagram, all one word. You're watching this on the replay, you're watching it live, give them a follow. In fact, he will. Boom, now we're following.
And then to the other point, one of the guys I graduated with from Art Institute, I guess he wouldn't mind if I said his name. His name's Jeff Gabor. He's a phenomenal animator too, and we graduated together. I was the 2D guy, he was the 3D guy, and this is all part of the whole Drive thing too. Was that, and for some reason I didn't realize we were graduating together until like my last year, and so I was like, oh my gosh, my reel is going up against Jeff Gabor's reel, because his work is just crazy good. I mean, he got
I just looked him up at Epic
work,
Games and also Ice Age.
Yeah, he got in with Blue Sky way before I did, and he was the one who got me my job at Blue Sky. So that answers the other thing, is that he was the one who, since we worked together, well, we went to school together, and I think that just had him vouch for me, and I'm assuming he vouched pretty hard for me to get into Blue Sky.
Well, that was like we were talking to Peter over at Cravopolis, and he literally was saying that he learned how to do animation and how to like digitally do it, because he was doing papers and stuff for Space Jam, but doing the transition to digital, he learned from Joel Kawahara, who made BentoBox. And he's like, small world. Cool. He's like, I showed up for an interview, and there's Joel. He's like, hey.
Yeah. So yeah, that Jeff was like huge in getting me, into Blue Sky, which just totally changed my life career into a whole new direction. Yeah.
JB.
Thank you, sir. So the next one, I know you've been talking a lot about like going to school, first jobs and things like that. Is there any particular like class or instructor that jumped out besides the first animation class that really kind of was just solidified the whole choice for you, that this is it? And even though Disney left and did all these things, you're like, I could fall back on kind of what this professor, this instructor had said, and that motivated me to kind of just keep going.
Yeah, honestly, I had one of the teachers in college that I had, his name was Tom Flanagan, and he was the hardest, like hardcore, like he would tell you your work sucked if it sucked, and your work was never good enough for him, and he was my life drawing teacher, so he would have all of his students, like he would say, here's your homework, and it was just like, you have to do you had to do 5 life drawing, you had to go out and find someone to draw, because it was all like people, you had to draw people, you had to learn human anatomy.
Oh, so he didn't bring like life models in?
Yeah, well, he would bring life models in, but then you had to go and find people to draw, like you could draw each other, or if you were at a party or something, you could draw people, but it's like that was your homework, you had to draw even more people, and you'd come back with your 5 drawings, and he'd be like, that's terrible, I did give him, I would say I did give him a little bit of a hard time trying to find some bad stuff to say, but that was his philosophy, it seemed like that was his philosophy, was that he did not want to sugarcoat anything. He wanted to build that. I guess he was a drill sergeant before he was a teacher. He brought that to school. I remember, I mean, I don't condone it, but it's a funny story. Go
on.
He would show up to class with McDonald's pamphlets, like work at McDonald's, and if like a student did really bad, he'd just drop one of the pamphlets on their
just think about it.
And I mean, I'm assuming he did it in jest, but I mean, he definitely was like all about drive. So that was, hard work. He was definitely one of those, you got to do 1,000 crappy drawings to get a good drawing in. So he was like, let's do those crappy drawings. And so I think that was the one that I I definitely feel like I got a lot out of my my 3D teacher was Sandeep Kulkarni, his name was, and he really knew his stuff. I learned a lot of 3D from him, which I still use to a certain degree. I mean, I'm glad I took those classes, but I do 2D for the most part. So, but he was a great teacher. Don Long was a great teacher. He was so nice. He was like the opposite of Flanagan. He was super nice. And funny story with him, it's on the flip side. One of my friends who was a student, he kind of deliberately did a really crappy drawing for his class just to see if we could
what he would do with
make him say something negative about someone's work. And it was we were just laughing, just seeing him just struggle to try and find something nice to say about this really bad drawing. But he was a fantastic artist, and he was one of those people that I really tried to absorb like his technique, and it was really hard because he didn't know how to say, no, you're doing it wrong, you should do it like this. He was always like, oh yeah, that's great, fantastic, and it's like, how do I do that? How do I do what you're doing? And he's just
not everything can be great. I need some constructive criticism here. Were they in the industry at all, or were they strictly just on the teaching side of things?
Flanagan was not as much. Don Long, he was, but he did like fashion illustration, which is like if you see those old like fashion drawings that are freaking amazing. Those like
the 80s style, like stretched long and
yeah. He could do that stuff, and man, he was one of those guys that he'd have this blank canvas, and he'd just like kind of poke at it with his brush and just kind of, and then you'd start seeing this like gorilla start to appear that's like just perfectly like in this crazy cool pose, and it was all just with these like quick brush pens, and he'd be talking to you, and it's like, oh, look at what this brush pen can do. Isn't this cool? And in the end, you're just like, do that.
As somebody who can draw, it's so frustrating that it comes so easily to some people.
Oh yeah.
Like, I'm gonna concentrate, and they're like, yeah, no, watch this, and they're just drumming on a canvas. And like,
like it's not a big deal to them. It's not fair.
Must be nice.
And oddly enough, I respect what he's doing. My 2D animation teacher was he worked on, and he said this, not me. So he said he worked on all the Peanuts episodes except for the good ones. so he didn't work on Christmas. He didn't work on Thanksgiving. He didn't work on the Great Pumpkin. But he worked on all the rest of them.
All the other ones.
And he was I kind of butted heads with him because that's what he taught, was kind of the Peanut style, the very limited animation.
Yeah.
And I respect it, because his whole thing was like, how can you tell me a story with the fewest amount of drawings possible? And that was kind of the whole Peanuts, sort of thing, where it's just like, get me from A to B without any razzle dazzle, just get me there, and it's like, hey, that's awesome for, that's a great way to teach, it's
I'm sure
razzle dazzle.
Yeah.
Huh?
You were all razzle dazzle.
Well, I was, I was a young kid that was in love with Disney, and I'm like, and I told him I want to make that. And he's like, you're not gonna get anywhere in that. You gotta learn how to get as much done as possible with as little work as possible.
I mean, I'm sure that translates well to other things like storyboarding and comics.
Yeah. No, like I said, there is definitely value in what he taught.
It's just
not what I wanted to learn.
Well, yeah.
It sounds like you were essentially Kevin Bacon in Footloose.
Maybe.
I was telling you what to do. You're like, no, I just need to draw. And you're like,
drawing's outlawed.
Yeah.
You're just in a bar just doing amazing drawings. Like, no.
I mean,
God.
we did kind of butt heads a little bit, but
Yeah.
hey, you know, I it was one of those things when I did my first pencil test. I was like, all right, well, this is it. This is what I want to do, and you know, and it's just not what he had his own philosophy, and it just I just said, no, I don't want to do that. So
it got you where you were, so
yeah,
can't
so
say it
here I
didn't
am.
work. So in 2004 to 2006, you provided cleanup animation for Humoring the Fates, which you had mentioned earlier, which states you worked on projects for from Mattel Toys and Spike TV. What does it mean to be a cleanup animator?
Well, that was like I said, the guy that got me the job with Humoring the Fates, he was the animator. So he would do like rough animation, and this guy was freaking phenomenal. He is his name's Ben McSweeney. Okay. And he's online too. He, I believe, worked on the Pickle Rick episode.
Okay.
So all that crazy fighting and crazy like action stuff, that is like Ben McSweeney to a T.
Oh wow. Okay.
So Humoring the Fates was kind of anime. Well, not kind of. It was super anime influenced. Which was way out of my comfort zone.
Okay.
And so usually how it worked, Ben would do a rough animation, and I would clean it up. I would do a new sheet over his, because we were doing paper at the time. Right. So he did the rough animation on paper, and for each frame he did, I'd do a new sheet on top and draw over the top of it, cleaning it up.
Oh, okay. Okay. So essentially really, just doing the final line.
Yeah, kind of the final line. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And it was, I guess it was kind of it was a teaching thing, because again, anime was definitely, I focused so much on kind of the Disney style. So anime, man, you got to know anatomy so well.
For sure.
And it was definitely like, talk about learning. That was like probably one of the biggest learning experiences for me, is in both the animation like I do on Bob's Burgers. It's a lot of that was stemmed from my job at Humoring the Fates, because working with such a crazy good animator, I think I learned a way. I mean, granted, what I learned in college was great, but man, that first job in the industry was like, okay, I just had my toe in the water versus what I learned at Humoring the Fates.
Well, you got to figure learning in college and learning on the job are two totally different things, because college are kind of stuck in one little box, whereas you get out to the industry, everything's kind of moving and changing rapidly. So you're able to learn on the job and learn all these things. Whereas again, in college, you're kind of like, we're learning this, and then eventually we'll learn this. So, I got to figure
I think that might be why it's so difficult to get that first job, that first job in the industry, because I think a lot of people just don't know how much work is involved.
Right.
And it's so hard to look at someone fresh out of college and just going like, yeah, I bet this guy could handle what we do, because it's so much work. But yeah, I think that, again, going back to like, if you're fresh out of college, you got to prove that you can put the work in.
Now, and this is a question we'll get to down the line, but in fact, I'll just ask it now. Is there any programs that you think a budding animator should familiarize themselves with now?
I would say Photoshop, but I mean, Photoshop is actually kind of, it seems like less and less people are using it these days. I mean, I honestly think, I don't think that there's like a piece of software that will magically get attention. I think it's the work that you do. I mean, if you can draw, like as far as 2D and you know, if you can draw, I think studios would be like, okay, well, you know, we can teach you the software, but you need to know how to draw first, you know?
Yeah.
We don't have the time to teach you how to draw. We have the time to teach you the software, but we don't have the time to teach you how to draw. So,
Yeah, I'd venture to say you're the first person to say Photoshop in all the time we've been doing that. I don't.
Yeah, I guess it depends on what you want to do. I mean, if you want to go into storyboarding, then definitely learn Storyboard Pro.
Yeah,
that seems to be industry standard. But a lot of people, like when I was at Blue Sky, they used Photoshop a lot for their storyboarding. So, but they're so similar, you know. It's like you could learn one or the other, and you could probably flip over to the other.
Figure it out
pretty easy. So learn something. I mean, if you know how to use a Cintiq and hotkeys and that whole process, then that's easily translated into different software. One thing from my general philosophy is I always try to learn different. Like if I have a personal project I want to work on, then I kind of force myself to do it in a software I've never used before. Because because then it just it's like by the time I'm done with that project, it's like, oh, now I know Blender. You know, I did Dirk's Popeye short piece in Blender because Blender has that grease pencil tool that I was like, oh yeah, that's awesome. I definitely would love to learn how to do that. I'd say you should try and keep an open mind. Don't be one of those people that's just like, I'm paper only, or I'm just Photoshop. Screw all that other. Oh, I'm just Maya. I'm not going to learn Blender. Why would I? You know, it's like, you know, try and keep those options open. You know.
Do you think with as readily as all these different programs are now available to just anybody, people making movies on iPads and even on their iPhones, do you think going to college is as important as it used to be, especially for like animating or animation and like the industry in general?
I will say, and I don't know if that's kind of a hot take, but I will say no.
Okay.
I mean, the internet's such a fantastic tool that we have now, and man, when I was at Blue Sky, I can't count how many people got industry jobs from like Animation Mentor and what was the other one? There's another one that was similar to Animation Mentor, where it's just this online school, you know, that's just all animation based, and they force you to work on your own little project, and you know, there's no, you know, there's no standard, you know, college courses. It's just like here's how to animate. And people have gotten jobs from that, and it's like, wow, man, that's probably a fraction of what college costs, especially these days. And you know, it's like I took a statistics course in my college, and it's like I don't use that, you know.
Did too. So that sounded like Mario's story a little bit, Mike. Remember, he said like on Saturday mornings he went to like, as a high schooler, just a class on how to paper animate. I just kept going, just kept signing up for it. And then he's like, and then it came time where someone from Disney rolled in and was like, so who wants to animate? And then they just held like a thing, and he showed off his drawing skills, and they're like, you can come with us.
Yeah. It's, you know, and that's the thing. I mean, I'm sure college is valuable to the right person, but man, you know, it's like I'm just shocked at how many people are getting jobs just from going to Animation Mentor and Anim School. That's what it was, Anim School.
Now, on the flip side, do you think it's important to be in a place like Los Angeles or New York to just kind of get FaceTime with folks to get in the industry, or do you think you can easily get in there as well, just online?
I think you have a benefit if you're out west. You know, it's fortunately for me, I've kind of established myself. I established myself in by this time to where, like, you know, if God forbid, if I am not working for Bento, I'm not too worried that I'll get picked up by someone else.
Right.
But yeah, I think if I did move out west, I probably would have a lot more opportunities. And so for someone who's starting, it wouldn't hurt.
For sure.
You know, I think you'd probably would have some benefits that you wouldn't have if you didn't live out west. But that being said, I'm not saying it's impossible.
For sure.
Yeah.
If you really want to stay remote, then just, you know, you might have to work a little harder than someone who's willing to move out west. And that's really a personal choice.
For sure. In the comments, Crystal says Popeye punching Bluto scene was awesome.
Oh.
And then in camera, I'm not sure if this is just a bot speaking, but it says, I love open source software, subscription models grind my gears. And I totally
agree with that. It's
this whole
I do too, man.
It's
Blender, man. I freaking love Blender.
What's the new one? Procreate Dreams is the new one, because we use Procreate for art stuff because it's free. And then Dreams just came out to help animate, but there is a little bit of a price thing for that. But I think it's a one-time only fee.
A one-time $20.
Yeah, that's nothing, man. That's
that doesn't look too bad.
We're state workers. We just don't have $20 to be throwing around like that.
The brushes, though, are more expensive than that is.
Oh, yeah, those open source brushes. Okay. So in 2006 to 2009, you started working for 3DH Communications as a head storyboard artist for a children's educational show. What was it like working on a children's show versus a show like Bob's Burgers in the Great North?
It was a very different experience as far as like, it was a very indie studio. I mean, there was actually a good handful of people working there, but it was like, you know, that was my first experience working in an actual studio. It was run by an ex-Disney who really was trying to kind of build another little Disney studio. So he even like built, like, he took one of the rooms in the place we were at and turned it into a little theater, and we would watch our dailies in there. And but it was a cool experience. It was, you know, it was it's hard to say because it was so indie that what I will say is, working on Bob's, it is such a well-oiled machine.
Oh yeah, especially at this point in its run.
Yeah. And I spent a lot of my previous projects working on projects that like were very people were still trying to figure out how to make a movie, you know. And so stepping on into Bob's was just like, you know, we know how to do this, and you better make sure you are. And I don't want to say this in a bad way. I mean, I think it's fantastic. You know, this just the fact stepping into a world where it's just like, no, we know what we're doing. Yeah. And it's like, oh, awesome. You know,
you just have to keep up. That's all.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those things, like, as part of working on indie projects, I could be like, hey, let's try this, let's try that, let's do this. And, you know, like, oh, you can't do this, then I'll do it. And so, you know, there was, I guess that's really more what the story is versus a kid's project. It was just more of an indie project where everyone was like, I mean, they would hire people right out of Full Sail to work, there. Yeah. So it was crazy. Like, nobody, including me, nobody knew what we were doing. And so it was very much a learning how to make a movie, you know, as far as like the process was, that was really more the experience for me. And then stepping into Bob's, where it's just like, no, we know what we're doing. And I had to, it's like jumping onto a moving train, you know, where I'm like running and then I can jump on, and I'm making sure that I'm everything that I'm doing is keeping that train moving forward, and you know.
I gotta figure there's got to be some fun in like learning something for the first time with a bunch of people who are also learning. Like you're not really restricted by these rules
Yeah.
that you eventually learn, and you're not like, oh, we can't do this because X, Y, and Z said no. You're like kind of like, well, how about we just try it and see what happens?
Yeah.
That's
And that was a lot of the time, because I was actually the head of story. So on that, and so I was of this mentality of like, I would storyboard stuff out and go like, let's see if they can do this, and I'd come up with crazy weird stuff for them to do, and just like, let's see if they can do this, and I'd hand it down the pipe, and sometimes they'd come back and go, what, we can't do this, and it's just like, well, can you meet me in the middle? And and we would innovate in ways, because we didn't have a lot of money either,
right?
So there was a lot of innovating of like, maybe of like compromising, and you know, I felt good. I'd get to push the anim team into doing stuff that like, oh wow, I actually can do this, you know. and so it was definitely a cool experience. I loved the people I worked with. Some really funny people, especially this guy, Ricky Roxborough. He is a writer, and he worked on the Tangled series, and I think he currently works on the Mickey shorts. So
Okay, I've seen some of those.
Yeah, so he was great to work with, and he actually, another person working with him, he got me a lot of jobs after the 3DH studio ended. But
nice. And a bunch of people told us in animation, it's such a, even though it's a big industry, like that niche is so small. As long as you're a good person, you're easy to work with. 9 times out of 10, someone's going to go to bat for you and bring you along the ride.
Yeah,
so.
Personality is huge. I think. I mean, I guess if you're like a friggin' amazing animator, maybe you have a little bit of, or artist, maybe you might have a little leverage to be a grumpy person, but man, if you can work with other people, you know, if you can be like a, you know, a driving force, a positive force in your team, then that definitely helps, you know, keep you. I mean, it's not going to be the key to it, but I mean,
for sure, yeah.
It definitely gives you a what's the word? I guess bonus points.
Yeah. I mean, nobody wants to work with assholes. So, I mean, even the best artists, if you're a jerk to work with, nobody wants that.
Yeah, exactly.
Crystal wants me to ask you about your Bob's Burgers contest submission, Cat Orange Whistling.
Oh, okay.
We'll get into Bob stuff down the road, but I wanted to ask this question at least.
I'm assuming that she's talking about the. You remember when Bob did the fan art episode?
Yes.
Yeah.
I submitted the. I did a little animation of the intro of like the burger coming together, and I did like my own version of that, where like you see Bob like he's like excitedly sticking the toothpick in the burger, you know, like how some people do that, and then there's the pull out, and there's all the buildings appearing and stuff, and I worked so hard on it, and they said that I'm just gonna say, oh, this is due Sunday at 12.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. So I'm working. Sunday, I'm working, and it's like, you know, it's like 3, 4 in the afternoon. It's like, all right, I'm done. Submit. I get this thing like, oh, we aren't doing the submissions anymore. And I'm like, what? And I like looked all over, and it's like at 12 noon.
Oh.
And I'm like,
who shuts down at noon?
Yeah, I'm like, who does that at noon? I'm like, what? Are you serious? Ooh. And yeah, so I was just like, oh man, and I put up my thing on all my social media, and what was really cool about it, and I still, to this day, I still kind of ask around at Bento, but when I put it up on my social media, dude, the Bob's fans like just kind of went crazy, and they all like, dude, we gotta get this in there. We gotta get this in there. And people were like, oh, I know someone who knows Lauren Bouchard, and I'm gonna send it to them, and let's see if they could get it to Lauren. And I was like, oh, whoa, holy crap! And so, and I think it kind of came down to, like, I think Fox or someone talked to me and said, like, yeah, I'm sure it was like some sort of technical thing where they just couldn't accept it. And I was like, all right, well, now I guess I have something to share on my social media. But
you should go talk to him to let you do an opening credits now. Like, hey, not for nothing, but you owe me. I got this in before noon.
I would if I knew I had the time for it, but man, I'm
just resubmit your other one.
Well, I guess I could do that.
Yeah, just like drop it off at like 11:50. Like, is it on time now?
Well, Nathan... like now it's like I'll turn in stuff a little late, and they're just like, it's okay.
Those deadlines are soft deadlines. Like, yeah, they are. Okay. Nathan St. Pierre
because
says,
of you, they are now.
Yeah. Maybe. Hey, man, who's next? Who's next in the Bob fan art submission? We'll see who's next down the line.
Nathan St. Pierre says, Erin, I'm here late. I'll have to watch this later. But they say hello.
Oh, hey, Nathan.
Yes.
Another Florida friend of mine.
Hey.
He's a great artist. Nathan St. Pierre. No, he is in Seattle. He's another Nathan. He's a good friend of mine.
In Seattle a couple months ago. Very nice.
Yeah.
JB, I feel like I've been asking all the questions. Number 10's on you, buddy.
Thank you.
Oh, Danielle says hi, by the way, Nathan says.
Oh, yes. That is Seattle. Hi, Nathan and Danielle.
So in 2009, 2011, you did some work for ToonWorks as a character prop designer and worked some freelance, which we've been told is kind of just part of the animation world itself.
Yeah.
You freelanced for like Premise Entertainment and worked on projects for like Raid, Marvel, Disney, Oklahoma University, which is an odd mix, to say the least.
Yeah.
So what's it like? We've asked a ton of people, but everyone has different stances on freelance, and they either love it or they hate it, or like it's just part of the game. What's your feelings about freelance?
Okay, I'll tell you my secret for freelance was living in Florida where taxes are cheap.
Yeah, that's all we got going for us, but yeah.
B, my wife worked at Starbucks, so we got all the benefits from her.
Okay.
And so I mean that's really what it was I made the money, she made the benefits. So that was how we worked out that situation. And then plus living in Florida where it was I mean it was so cheap that I could actually afford to kind of undercut other artists. So I don't know, Steven Silver probably doesn't want to hear me say that, but hey, I'm not gonna lie. So
they may not hear him. Except here comes Steven. No, we don't. They're not gonna.
This is your intervention.
Yeah, I will say Florida has it's a lot of swings and misses as far as what's going on in our state at the moment. But it's not that expensive to live here. I'm in Tallahassee myself, and I'm soft house hunting at the moment. But like 4 acres of land in a house for like 200, and I'm like, whoa, I'll just buy that sight unseen and hope for the best.
I know, man. I'm telling you, those Florida taxes were phenomenal.
Yeah. Dirk says, heading out, 3 a.m., need sleep, stay cool, Erin.
Catch you later, Dirk. Nice to see you. Yeah, so freelance was, I mean, I had a good time. It was definitely a lot of I guess that's kind of part of the whole thing why I'm so in love with Bob's and Great North. But a lot of my freelance projects were very much working for people who are like, this is what I want to do, and a lot of the times I was like, oh, hey, we should try this, and it's like, no, I want to do this, and so I was fine with it. It's like, hey, this is your project, so let's do what you want to do, and so I was totally fine with that, and I mean, granted, some projects were more fun than others. I loved working on Angry Birds. That was a lot of fun. Hero of Color City was a cool project. That's the one that, I mean, it's a kids show. That was definitely a kids show, where it was, it was very child oriented. So it was kind of hard for me to get behind as far as just keeping me interested. But what I will say, the feather in my cap with that is that I storyboarded the entire movie myself. I was the only board artist on it, so I boarded the whole movie myself, as well as
brag.
And
nothing wrong with that.
I designed all the crayon characters and the human characters for that show too. So I mean, I always fall back on that. I mean, it's it's not the best, but it's like it was one of those personal things where it was just like, can I board a whole movie myself? Well, let's see, because it's feature length, and so I was like, yeah, let's try it. And
that's so much fun though. It was like, can I do this? And then you realize, oh, I can do this.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, Angry Birds was a blast to work on. Super cool people. Premise was that was my dream job at the time, because that was ex-Disney. And so that was a studio full of ex-Disneys. They worked a lot on the Princess, the Frog Princess, because that was when Disney was outsourcing. So Premise did a lot of that. I wanted to get on that, but I didn't, because I was probably working on Angry Birds, I think. So, but I did work on a lot of the odd things that I worked on with Premise was all very Disney based, which I felt like way more comfortable. That's what I wanted to do. So yeah, we did that. Where the Rose piece, like advertisement, we did that. It's called The Bear and the Hare. I worked on that, which was when you get the chance, just go ahead and check that out. That's super crazy, because I worked with Aaron Blaze on that, and it was all it was 2D animation, but it was they did it with cutouts. How they did it, we do all of it in 2D, and then they laser printed them onto these wooden cutouts and made the characters like walk through these models. And the people who built these models, they worked on like all the crazy stuff, like Chicken Run, and like all the
claymations. Stop motion
stuff.
Very cool.
Stop motion stuff. So it's weird. It's like it's a stop motion 2D animation kind of mixed together.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's really cool looking. But
it's almost like did you ever play like Yoshi's Craft World? It's kind of like that.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. I guess it kind of has like maybe a Paper Mario sort of feel to it, but like really like if I guess that's what it is, like Yoshi's Crafted World, because it's everything's very like photo real, and the characters are like casting real shadows across the set and everything. It's really cool. But I worked on that, and that's kind of my freelance experience.
Very cool. I was also curious a little bit with the Marvel projects and things like that. Is it anything that has come out?
Oh no, the Marvel I worked, it was a Superman, or no, it was a Spider-Man. It's like a book. It was like a digital book. So it really, I mean, it was just he would land a little project here and there, and that was one of them. I think he does a lot of books these days too, like where he does like illustrations for books. But it's like, hey, I got to work on a Spider-Man project.
That's still pretty cool. Not many people can say they've done that.
Yeah.
So another question we had, and you kind of went into Angry Birds, I always loved the games and thought it was a lot of fun. And then I've watched the shows before, and I think they're pretty hysterical for being based off of just, a phone game. It's pretty amazing where that's come from.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Now we've kind of gotten into the comic realm. So Band, we brought it up a little bit earlier, but where did that come from and how did it start? And
that was, let me go. I think I have a copy. I can bring it up later. But that was actually written by my wife, and it was one of those things. She just started writing it, and she actually wrote some. She helped on is a comic called Action Girl. A few. It was done a while back by a bunch of women doing a collective comic together. Collaboration, yeah. Each person had their own little mini story in the comic, so it was like kind of a compilation of little stories.
Cool. Yeah.
But it's way cool. But she contributed to that, and so anyway, she started writing this story, and I was like, well, that's kind of cool. And so I just started scribbling little doodles behind her, and it just eventually came to a point where we were like, should we do this? Should we make a comic? And we were like, yeah, let's try it. And so we started. Let me go grab it. I'll be right back.
I figured you'd want to jump back in for this part of the comic.
Sorry, I was. I'll explain to the audience later.
But
so that's the book called Band.
Ooh.
And then we have 2 volumes. And yeah, so my wife did all the writing, I did all the illustration.
Ooh.
And you can buy your copy at band-comic.com.
Is the links available in your on your Instagram, like in your bio or anything like that, or?
That I don't know, but usually unfortunately because I've just been working so much, I haven't had the chance to put a lot of time into it lately. So we haven't really been pimping it. And honestly, we would hit a lot of the Comic-Cons before the pandemic. We haven't touched a Comic-Con since the pandemic. So, but we did sign up for a tiny one. We're going to dip our toe back into the Comic-Con world. Mm-hmm. So, and we're starting with a tiny little local one. I think it's in New Jersey. But yeah. So when that starts, we're planning on getting the social media fired back up again for the comic.
Come back down to your old stomping grounds. Go to MegaCon.
Oh yeah, we loved MegaCon, man.
Yeah,
we would hit that every year when we lived out there.
Yeah, like I said, I went to it for the first time just a couple days ago. It's fun. It's just as big, maybe slightly smaller than like San Diego Comic-Con, but like just as much stuff packed in there.
It's a huge show. It's such a good show too, man. It's so many cool people. Mm-hmm. It's so friendly.
Yeah. It's,
I love that show.
It's a lot. It's a lot if you're not expecting it because they hit you hard and fast. You gotta pay attention.
Well, I was always on the other side of the table, so I didn't get to experience the craziness. So.
Yeah, that's how we are at like San Diego. It's like we're working the booth, so we get to see it from like the safety of behind a table. But
yeah,
it's fun to see like with the craziness of like Hall H and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, maybe this
year. No, not waiting outside. The first year we ever went, the Hall H line, we were coming back from dinner at like 9, 10 o'clock at night. And literally there was just this line along the whole bank. And we're like, what are you guys in line for? Just asking people. They're playing Monopoly and all kinds of stuff and Switch. And they're like, this is the line for Marvel tomorrow.
Oh,
God.
Like,
for tomorrow. I'm like, what happens? And then you ask somebody, Mike, and they're like, oh, they hand out wristbands. They just walk down this line. And once they run out, they run out.
Oh man!
But that's when they weren't scoffing at us as if like we were the assholes because we didn't know what was going on.
How dare we not know what they're doing?
Oh man!
But it's
Well,
not.
that's the thing. That's what I loved about MegaCon is that you can ask stupid questions and then they go, "Oh, it's like."
He's like, "Oh, you don't know Hall H?" I'm like, "You motherfucker."
It's just like, oh, we know, we just don't care like you do.
Yeah, we got a job to do.
I'll
It's
find
weird.
out 2 minutes after you post it.
Yeah.
So cool.
But like Hall H is a different monster because you get your wristband, you get in there, and you sit down. You can't leave.
You don't
leave.
leave.
You ain't coming back in. It's a level of stupid I just do not have the patience for. So
no, could not. Sorry.
All right, JB. I was dealing with my situation. I completely missed what we picked up, so I'm gonna let you take it.
We were just talking mostly about the comics, and then also you worked on another comic. I don't know how much.
Yeah, it's called Call of Cthulhu, and actually, again, it was that was like a paid gig, and that was written by Evan Dorkin and his wife. They saw this book that I did, and they said, "Hey, you want to work on our book with us?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." So again, just another one of those instances where you kind of prove yourself ahead of time. That's like, yeah, I can make a whole 100 and so page comic, and then they go, okay, how about you do one for us? So, but yeah, that was a great project, and I actually got to work with a close friend of mine. It was almost Dirk. I almost worked with Dirk on this, but Dirk couldn't do it at the time, so I worked with another great inker. His name's Mario Gonzalez, and he worked on the Wily Man comics and another indie comic that's really, really good. And yeah, that was a really cool experience too. I don't know any Lovecraft, honestly, outside of like the occasional fun little horror movie, but yeah, it was definitely a cool little mini dive into the Lovecraftian world for me.
Okay.
All right.
Well, before we head into your recent work, you worked 4 years at Blue Sky Studios. What were some of the projects that you worked on with that particular studio?
Well, I started off freelancing on Spies in Disguise.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that was fun. And that got me my full-time job with them. And my first project, as soon as I moved in, my first project was Nimona. And that was like pretty mind-blowing because my first day at Blue Sky, they sat me down, dropped the Nimona comic in my lap, and said, "Today you're just reading. That's all you're doing today." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And so I spent the whole day reading the Nimona comic, and I was like, "Oh, that was good." And they're like, "Yeah, we're making the movie." And I was like, "You're making this movie?" And they're like, "Yeah." It's like, okay, I'm totally in on this. It's another phenomenal comic, and the movie's great too. I of course I'm biased, but so for me personally, it's a phenomenal movie.
Right.
But yes, both products are very good, worth consuming. And then after that, they moved me to the next project, which was called Superfan, which I thought it was fun because it was going to be a dive into the kind of comic fan world. Like our main character was this like super obsessed fan of this fantasy series, and like kind of a little too obsessed with it. I mean, that was sort of his heroic flaw or whatever, and that was what he kind of learned to overcome. Not that it's bad or anything, but it was a fun story. But yeah, I was, unfortunately, that was when the studio shut down and I was working. Actually, I moved on to the next project, which I probably shouldn't talk about because I think that one is in the listing for the same company that made Nimona. The guys basically when Disney shut down Blue Sky, the main core group, Nimona Group, took, I don't know if they bought it, but they took the Nimona IP to Annapurna and Netflix, and they made the movie there. And so I think they took the IP that I was working on.
Okay, so potentially still in production, or
I think it is actually,
It
and it's super exciting. I really hope it is, because that project is so freaking cool, and it was
that project was Squid Games.
It was so good.
Nimona is out.
Yeah, Nimona's out. Yeah, and Nimona actually got like 9 Annie noms, and it's nominated for the Academy Best Animated Feature. So I'm rooting for that, although I'm sure Spider-Verse is going to get it. But I'm rooting for Nimona. I'm definitely rooting for Nimona.
No, sequels never win awards. So you're fine. You're fine. According to LinkedIn, this is where you worked a lot on character development. Character development, draw overs, and fine-tuning animation. What is it like to create characters, and what qualities do you believe make a good or a great character for storytelling?
Well, that was the thing, was I didn't create the characters. That was the whole, they had the whole like art department at Blue Sky. But my job was to take characters that were designed, and then I had to go in and do pencil tests. I would animate the characters, and that would unlock like potential problems that we would have. I would like try and push and pull the characters in crazy different ways. A lot of my tests are on my social. I'll put my social media. If you want to check out my social media, you'll see a lot of those Blue Sky tests. And yeah, I would like just try and stretch them and squash them and go as crazy as I could with them, and in hopes to just kind of break them and just have the team figure out, like, can we do this? How far is too far for the character? A lot of the time we would go like, oh, I think like on Spies in Disguise, they were thinking about having Tom Holland play one of the characters in it. And so I would take the character design, take some Tom Holland Marvel, Spider-Man audio, and have the character, animate the character to it. And, not only would they say like, okay, yeah, this works, or they actually, I think they took that test and showed it to Tom Holland as part of the pitch for like, hey. So I mean, that was part of my job, was to do dialogue tests to characters to see if it worked, if it didn't for the character.
Interesting. It seems similar to Simon Chong's story, where he created this Archer Bob's crossover, but then pulled audio from both shows and then smashed it all together. And it was like, oh, this is amazing. And then he got a job from it because it's that easy. No, we love Simon, of course.
That's just how you get it done.
Yeah. Now, of course, we're a bento box entertainment show, and I'm sure some of our audience goes, when are they gonna get to?
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
I guess
Mike,
we aren't.
when are we
Anyway.
gonna get? Yeah, never with Mike, that's for sure. So yeah, for all of you that have been waiting in the audience, it's now time. It is that time for us to start talking about. In 2021, you started your career off at Bento Box working for a little show called Bob's Burgers, which for us is always super exciting. And a little movie that got sprinkled in there as well. What better way to start?
That's what I got hired on. I got hired on the movie. That was my first bento job. Welcome back.
Yeah. So I started to do the intro a little bit. We just basically got into Erin was first brought in for the movie, then got the show.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
As soon as the studio shut down, the Blue Sky shut down, everyone was throwing their reels out everywhere, and Bob's was like, pretty much like I sent my reel out to Bob's and to Bento, and they just jumped on it like immediately. And from what I heard, I mean, I don't know why Bento just holds their cards so close to their chest, but but from what I've heard, it was Bernard Derriman who was like really pushing for me to help on the movie.
That's a pretty good person to have in your corner.
Yeah. Because man, there was a lot of times where I kept hearing like, oh well, you know, like I don't know, Bernard really wants you in, so you know, I'd ask for something special, and they're like, well, usually we don't do that, but you know, Bernard said what you want, you get. So I was like, oh, what? Okay.
It's really nice to have that.
Did you know anybody in Bento beforehand, or you just it was just a wide net saying, "Hey, we're looking for folks"?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it was like Bento had on their website like, we're looking for 2D animators. They didn't say what project it was, and I was just like, all right, I'll just throw this in there. I threw my reel at Pixar. I threw my reel at DreamWorks. And Pixar actually, I did some freelance for them. I did some freelance on Elemental, and yeah, I don't even know if my name's in the credits. It probably isn't because it was so early on. But yeah, I did some tests and I posted those on my social media too. I did some Ember tests and some Wade tests, which was really fun to do. But anyway, but yeah, that was Bento jumped. It's like they jumped really fast on me, and I said yeah, and they threw me, and I was like, oh, you're working on the Bob's Burgers movie, and I was like, at the time I was like, whoa, you guys are still making the movie?
Yeah,
I didn't even know. I was like, oh
yeah, we were waiting so long for that.
Yeah, we were like, are they still making the movie? We were like, because it was supposed to be like 2019 and then pushed and then pushed.
Yeah.
Pushed.
You are credited, Aaron. You're credited for it. I don't know if you're in the credits, but IMDb says you are in it.
On Elementals?
On Elementals, yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, cool. I'll take it.
How far into the process of the movie were they in when you came on board?
They were getting near the end. We were at the position where we basically had most of the animation from the various studios that they outsourced to. And my job was mostly just taking shots that weren't quite working and reworking them and, you know, getting them to work for the show. And but there were a couple of shots that I got to work on from scratch, which was pretty cool. But the bulk of my shots were when Grover was doing his song and doing the whole master plan. Yeah. I worked on a lot of those. A lot. Oh my God. I had to work on that freaking dart gun that he carried around. That thing was such a nightmare to track all the pieces. And I mean, thankfully, the outsourced studios did the bulk of the work. But still, man, cheating that thing was fun.
Did you? Would it be hard?
Yeah, that was the bulk of my work. Was just tweaking a lot of those shots. I guess there were like 2 studios that worked on that, and one of the studios, like the Irish studio, was really, really good. And then there was another studio that was really, really good. But so yeah, a lot of the stuff like was taking a lot of the good stuff from the Irish studio and kind of repurposing it in some of the shots, and so a lot of, I don't want to say kind of monkey work, but it was just a lot of cutting and pasting and
like hodgepodge.
Yeah, a lot of hodgepodge, which I mean, that's a whole learning experience unto itself.
Yeah, nothing like jumping right into a movie.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That was honestly, it's like I was more excited that the Bob's Burgers movie was being made than I was that I got a job working on the movie. I was just like, oh my God, it's being made still. I was so happy.
Which is a question I have. Were you a fan beforehand?
I was one of those fans. I was one of those people that didn't watch it until probably like season 5 was out. I didn't watch it at first.
That's a good season.
And I hate to admit it, but I was one of those people that's just like, that show is so ugly and I don't want to watch it. But I watched the first episode and I was like, this show is freaking amazing. Just from that first episode, I was like, one of those things where I watched the first episode and then I just watched the rest of them from there. I'm like, it's definitely a don't judge a book by its cover kind of show. And I love telling people that. Like, I have friends that don't watch it and like, just watch the first episode. Just watch that one. And sure enough, they're like, yep, I'm a fan now.
It's so wild because like the first 3 seasons, maybe the humor is so different from what we have now. There was things you could do in season 1 and 2 that there's no way they're doing now.
I know. It's funny because I work on the episodes now, and that's one of the statements that come out every now and then. They're like, "Whoa, we're allowed to do that? That's like a season 1 joke.
Yeah.
Are we allowed to do that?"
Yeah, post movie things kind of change. So
yeah. Occasionally we'll hear like a line or something, and we're like, "Ooh, that got in there. How does that get in there?"
Yep.
Sorry, I'm also trying to read the comments and make sure I'm keeping up on everybody's stuff. Song Masteric. Sure, I butchered that. It says, Erin, you rock. And
thank you.
Crystal says the scene where they shot out of the crime hole. I'm sure that is attached to another comment that I did not read. And now
that is the shot that I worked on.
Yeah.
Where they shoot out and then they land and they do the family does the big celebration. Yeah. The big celebration at the end when they're stuck in that little car.
Yeah. Did you?
Yeah, that was my big shot on the movie.
That's a pretty big shot to have.
Yeah, it's a pretty big shot. Yeah.
Did you by chance help with the Grover creepily crawling out of that?
Oh my God, I wish. That was
that kind of screams your vibe.
Oh man. I mean, I will say Bernard Derriman, he was the mastermind behind all the visual, like all the animation, like crazy good poses and stuff. So, I mean, I'm sure that was just one of his babies there, and yeah,
that was definitely like a pucker scene there for a second. I was like, that shouldn't be this scary, but
yeah. Like, this is very
phenomenal.
intense.
I love that, and it's so great. Like, I love stuff like that, and every now and then, something like that will sneak into a Bob's episode, and it's like, let's do it, let's freaking do that, and oh man, like some of the that one episode with Fish Odor when he does all the drugs and does the thing around the campfire. Yeah, there's a lot of fun stuff in there. Where
they go to the island. Yeah,
the island. That was such a blast working on because God, almost every shot was just like, this is freaking crazy. Are we gonna do this? Yeah, let's do it.
The last season, especially, they've been getting really crazy with their storytelling and their animation styles. Like last season, we had a scene in an episode where an old man was threatening to kill a mother and her child. You're like, it's still Bob's Burgers. I don't know. Maybe I'm watching a different show here, but holy shit.
I know, man.
And I was like, they're Nazis now? I'm like, what? There's Nazis in the episode? All right.
It's so interesting. I don't know what happens in the whole writing area, but I like to think that it's just, all these kind of like gritty writers you pushing against, corporate Fox going like, we should put this in there. And they go, no, you should take it out. And they're like, well, we'll put this in there. I don't know. I don't know what
Aaron
happens,
comes in, he's like, Mike and JB need to be in an episode. That's all I have to say. Goodbye.
It's like, that's our middle one. Put them in or we're doing Nazis. I'm like, okay, I guess.
Yeah, we'll do that. We're not putting those two in an episode.
No. Well, I'll see if I can sneak you in. I'm still trying to sneak my friend Andy in, but you know,
You get them first.
they keep thwarting me.
Yeah, just put all three of us in there. When did from the time your work on the movie ended to when you saw it on the big screen, how long of a time gap was that?
It was a while. I mean, I didn't really log how long it was. You know, that was kind of the cool thing, was that they took me off the movie and put me right to work on the show.
Okay.
So
were you able to see the movie as it progressed through the production?
Yeah.
Or you were just busy on the show at that point? Oh, okay.
oh well,
Cool.
I mean, when I was working on it, I got to see it progress.
Yeah.
I got to see like tons of the animatic for it, and probably my favorite part was I got to see Olive Bernard's rough scribble animation for all the dancing at the end credits.
Oh yeah,
That was so cool to see.
Was it or what you saw and what ended up on the screen? Was there like anything cut out or anything changed? It was all what he drew.
No, man. You don't change Bernard's work. It's so good.
It is.
I mean, if there's any changing, it's just plussing it, because if it's at all possible, his work is so good. It's like every frame needs to be in there, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
So,
now there were various premieres for this movie. There was a friends and family one. There was a crew one. There was a fan red carpet one. Were you able to attend any or all of those, or
none of them? No, I was out east.
Oh yeah, that's right. I keep forgetting.
Yeah,
you could have hopped on the plane with us.
I know, but yeah, that's COVID and everything. I'm such a weenie about that stuff. So
Same. I had to weigh my options. I was like, do I go to the premiere or do I just not potentially get sick?
Yeah, believe me, I wanted to, and I'm assuming if I again, you know, Bernard vouched for me so much, I kind of like, hey, could I get a ticket? And I'm sure they would have accommodated me, but
if we got in,
they would probably like, one of those guys has to get out.
Yeah,
like, it's fine.
But I will say, as soon as it played out here, I ran to the theater and watched it, and it was so much fun to watch.
It was wild.
When you watched it, I was just gonna say, a lot of the people we've had on who've worked on it, they said like when they first sit there and it starts, they're like all the feelings come in, and then they're like, then they see their moments where they animate, they're like, that's me, and they like get real excited about it, and they're like, it just made the whole thing cooler.
You know what? If I was at the premiere, I probably would have felt that way. If I was like surrounded by everyone who worked on the movie, I probably would have felt that way. But I mean, I hate to say it. Right now, I watch it and I feel more that way.
Yeah.
But man, that first time watching it was just like every little pixel that is wrong in my
shot. Also what we've been told.
We've heard that so many times. It's like 2 or 3 sittings afterwards. Yeah, we can enjoy it.
Yeah.
But the first one is like, why didn't we get one more?
Yeah.
With that.
It was too soon. It was way too soon for me.
Oh,
it's weird. Like I will look at old like Great North stuff that I did now and go like, oh, okay, I can buy that. Mm-hmm. But man, like, you know, when the episode airs, it's just I'm watching it going like, oh, I should have straightened that line out. I should have, you know.
Yeah, you need that couple of years in between. You need that distance.
Yeah. So, like I said, I was definitely happy. I mean, I couldn't have been more proud to work on. It's like I never, for the life of me, would think that I would work on the Bob's Burgers movie, but yeah, I'm way too critical of my own work.
I gotta figure that's a great thing about doing the shows is by the time we see it on TV, you're well in advance, like on the next season, and you got too much stuff to worry about to then go, oh, I missed.
Honestly,
that
we're not. I'm not. I'm only a few episodes ahead of you guys. So
okay.
I don't know if that's supposed to be a secret or not.
Oh no. Well, what we know of the shows is by the time we see like the season premiere of any particular episode or any season, the crews are already working on the next season.
Yeah. For the premiere, definitely. Yeah.
So like, cause it's like 6 months to get a completed episode in the can.
Yep. Oh yeah. Well, that's the story people. The story people, they worked on it. You know, I don't know how long ago, but for me, because I'm in post,
Yeah.
I, you know, when I'm done with my work, it gets aired like maybe a month later, you know, at the longest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard like they work up until like they can't work anymore on the episodes. It's like we need it tomorrow. It's like, all right, we're
It
gonna stay
depends
till
on how
tonight.
much work the episode
Yeah.
needs, but
Yeah.
yeah, there have been times where, I mean, I think the episode right now they're still making a couple of changes, or
Yeah.
and
Do they tell you noon or 12?
nah, that they definitely give me, you know, they're like, it has to be in by this day, by the end of day this day. And it's like, okay, I can do that. But yeah, no noon deadlines.
That's
Yeah, we're
good.
past that. You're a vet
Yeah.
now. You can take as much time as you need.
Do you
Well,
do you by
you
chance
tell them
remember
that.
do you remember your first Bob's episode you worked on?
Okay. The first Bob's episode I worked on, I want to say it was the loft bed episode
Okay.
with Louise.
Mhm.
I know I worked on the end credits because I had to redo all of Louise's dialogue for when she's dancing with Teddy, doing at the end credits of the loft bed.
Mhm.
I'll just say that one. It could have been an earlier one, but yeah, that's the one that comes to mind for the. Although that might be one of the later ones. I don't know.
Chiming in real quick from the comments section, Song Mastering says, "I love Aaron's acting reference videos and with the final animation he posts on his social media. Such a great reference for animation students and pros alike. Bravo, sir."
Oh, thank you so much. Well, that's one of the things with Bob's is that they really push, like, you know, these. I mean, it is a cartoon, but you know, these characters, these are real characters with bones and muscles, and you know, we can't do Looney Tunes stretch and smash, you know, kind of stuff with these. So that's always the big thing for me. Like, whenever a character like Wolf has a big tantrum, you know, it's like if I don't use reference, it's gonna look like Looney Tunes. And,
right? Yeah.
And
Just gotta
so
stay grounded.
yeah. So it's like I wanna only draw what can be done by actual humans.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the big things for reference. Why I use reference. And you know, Bernard's the same mentality. It's like, dude, act it out, because you never know. I mean, it's like you never know what kind of gestures might happen when a character's supposed to be doing something.
Yeah.
And if you just make it up off the top of your head, then, you know, it's like, well, you know, you might have a good imagination for it, but it's like, why not just act it out and
Yeah, it's the
see?
whole
You
drawing
can
what
see
you
for
see
yourself what
versus
people
what
do.
you think you see. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Nathan brings up a great point here that I was going to bring up as well. Just like the subtle little things that you can pick up on doing it yourself. Specifically, Gene doing the "Don't step on the lava" or in the lava bit, and kind of like catching himself and balancing and doing this. Like normally you could just like jump, but here it's like it feels real and it feels fluid and it feels like it flows so well. So
like Bob moving that stuff, like you have to like shift the weight. You got to take each piece and put it against the wall. Open the door with both hands because it's heavy. Like there's more motion and fluidity to it than just.
And just that alone, like Bob lifting and putting stuff. It's like how many footsteps does it take to do that action? It's like you don't know unless you act it out, and that's the thing. It's like, oh, okay, I need 3 footsteps to get here, and then 2 footsteps to get back, and it's like if I just came up with it off the top of my head, I probably would just give him 1 big step to get there and lift it, and 1 big step to get back, and it's like, no, that's not how people work. People people do extra things, you know.
I was watching a behind the scenes for a Miyazaki movie, and instead of giving a compliment to his animators, he was watching a short clip from their dailies, and he's like, So how many steps do we take when we walk? And literally just like looked at them and they're like, oh God, he's gonna make us redo all of it. And they're like, we take 5. And he goes like this, but children this many, adults this many. He's like, so what are we doing? And they're like,
Yep.
we'll just redo it tomorrow. And he's like, yes, we will. Good night, everyone. And like lit up a cigarette and walked away. And I was like, he's not wrong. He literally walked and showed. And he's like, that's why we do it this way. It looks phony.
Yeah. And that's
like,
why,
wow.
I mean, I'm not going to say that's the main reason why, but that's one of the many reasons why Miyazaki films are so revered, you know? Yeah. Like they put the work in.
Yeah, we've all seen plenty of Miyazaki films.
Yeah.
JV, you know this. I've seen like maybe one.
My
wife's seen them all. We own all of them. I've been to the Studio Ghibli Museum.
Yeah, I was about to say that. He is a travesty.
It's all lost on me.
None of it.
I know
I would
Totoro.
lose my mind. Yeah, I would lose my mind over there. And Mike's like, Totoro. Like,
I know Totoro.
Oh yeah.
It's fine. So in 2022, you started working on The Great North as a retake artist for seasons 2 and 3. How is it now? Obviously, you worked on Bob's for a bit there. How is it working with the Molyneux sisters on their, at this point, second season of their project?
It has been such a treat working with the Molyneux sisters. But let me tell you this first. I do remember the very first shot that I worked on Great North.
Oh,
and it was because it was talk about like throwing you in the deep end.
Yeah.
I had to board at a storyboard the shot where Moon takes the skunk into that building and everybody runs out of the building.
That's a lot of assets.
Yeah. Moon had you remember that episode where Moon he befriended the skunk and he wanted to show everyone that skunks are cool and
they're not going to hurt you and there's nothing to be afraid of. Yep.
Yeah. And there's that shot where it's just that exterior building way off in the distance and all these people just run out of the building into the foreground. That was my very first shot on The Great North.
And no small feats at all.
Oh God, it was crazy. And yeah, that's I will always remember that as my first experience on The Great North. And
because I mean, we know how like people say like doing like a classroom scene with just like 6 other people in the background is hard enough because you got to track everybody's movements and everything's got to be cool. So doing a scene where like everyone's running out of a building is why just go back to Bob's at that point. You're like, I don't know. It's too much too fast.
Oh my God, those board artists. There are some shots. I mean, there's tons of shots in every Bob's episode, but yeah, like all those little things that all the background characters are doing in the background, especially in like big shots and stuff. There's a board artist that is keying out all those drawings.
Jeez.
It's insane the amount of work that they put into some of those those shots.
Just thinking like an episode like Dawn of the Peck where it was like hundreds of turkeys just running around. You're like, each one of those is hand drawn. It ain't like one just like copy and paste and we have 2 turkeys that are the same doing the same things.
Well, even in the movie, like after we saw the Carney dancing scene for Lucky Ducks, we like went back and we're hanging out. We're just like, that scene alone has to just destroy people animating it because there's so much movement, so much stuff going on.
Yeah, it's insane. And yeah, thankfully I usually don't have, and honestly, because I'm in post, whenever any of those shots do land in my lap that have a ton of characters, I usually just pull what the board artist did originally and just reuse a lot of that. So thankfully, a lot of the work is done for me already. But yeah, those board artists, those Bobs and Great North, and I'm sure any board artist is well versed in insane crowd shots. But yeah, Bob's as well.
Do you have a favorite episode of The Great North that you've worked on at this point?
That I worked on? Oh my God.
And in general.
Well, I will say one of the episodes I am most proud of is the one of the last episodes of, was it 3, where they had the poop in the school, the big poop thing.
Oh, all the meat, weird.
Yeah.
shit
Oh, the meat.
happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The meat.
The gas escaping and
The gas.
Yeah.
Yes.
Explosion. Yes.
All right. So that was, it was the first one of the 2 that I'm proud of, because that was one episode where one of my lines got used, and it was when Beef, because of course Moon is not convinced that, that it's nothing, that he's like convinced that it's something we need to be concerned about, and everyone's just like, whatever. And it's when Beef kneels down to Moon and he's like, well, Moon, I think it's time that you let this gas pass. And that was my line. I came up with that one.
Bravo.
That's a good line.
Bravo.
It's an amazing
We were
line.
trying to figure out, a funny little line for that. And I pitched that during our meeting, and they were like, yeah, let's do it.
Now you're a featured writer, so
No, I am not a feature writer. The stuff they come up with, I'm like, oh my gosh, how do you do that? But that's a testament alone on how freaking cool the Molyneux sisters are, that they let they let anyone who's in that meeting, we'll throw something into the hat, throw something in the hat, and they're open to it.
That's great. Yeah.
And yeah, they are fantastic to work for. Okay, so I think it's probably should be obvious. Probably my favorite episode that I worked on was the Christmas episode, because of that wolf shot. And that was a thing where it's, I don't know, it's kind of a long story, but I started working with Matt Kalmus. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him, but yeah, he was the retake director and I was the retake artist. So I worked directly under him. Okay. He would tell me like, all right, here's all the stuff we need to change. And I would draw it out for him. And Matt, he was great to work for, because he, like, I don't know if he just saw the potential in me or whatever, but he was the one who started bringing me into the content lock meetings. Oh. And originally I wasn't part of that. He would just say like, here's what we need. And I go, okay. But he started pulling me into all this post-production meetings and creative meetings and stuff. And and on Great North, it got to a point where like there's a character just not acting the way we needed him to, and he just looked to me, he's like, you know what to do. And I'd be like, yeah, sure. And so I would just do my own version of it, and he'd be like, yeah, good, let's do it. And so I kind of feel like he was the person who allowed me to be in the Molyneux, circle, which was, I'm, forever grateful to Matt for that. And but the story with the going back to the Christmas episode, that was we always have like a series of shots that we have to fix. They're just for whatever reason, they're not working, and we have to fix them. Okay. And so we go through and we fix them. But that shot where Wolf was freaking out, all it was animated. He was just kind of at 3/4, and he was just doing that, blah 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 blah. And we were gonna push it through. And I said, I don't know, man. What's the voice actor for Wolf?
Will Forte. Yeah,
Forte.
Will's not gonna do that.
I was like, dude, Will Forte did such a great job. I just don't feel like what we have fits the shot. Yeah. And I was like, I wish someone would reanimate that. And he's like, well, you could do it. And I was like, are you serious? And he's like, if you think you can do it, and I was like, I'm doing it. So and so
Now, was it more like a, hey, I wish somebody could reanimate that?
No, I genuinely like, because Bernard helps us on the show.
Okay.
And so I was like, maybe we could give it to Bernard, or maybe we could get one of our animators to do something good with it. And he's like, yeah, how about you do it? And I was just like, I'll do it. And he's like, okay. And so and so I did the reference first and sent that to Matt, and he's like, oh dude, we're doing this. He saw that, he got really excited, and he's like, oh yeah, definitely do this. And then he was the one who was pushing, like when I did the shots, when I did the animation, he was like, dude, you got to post the live action next to the reference.
Oh yeah,
you got to do that. And I was like, okay, sure, whatever. And so yeah, as far as like my favorite, I mean, I would say that's still probably, I love the Skanky story. I love I love just all the goofy drama with that Christmas episode, and so I don't know, I'd probably say that is my favorite episode that I worked on. But man, God, there's so many good Great North episodes. I wish I worked on the ham punk rock episode.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
That's probably my favorite episode out of all the episodes I didn't work on. But
anytime I've watched that episode, the next morning I just walk around like doing my job and like, better not squash, better not squash. I'm just like, why is that so catchy?
I know, man. I freaking love that episode.
That, or the best end credits is usually like Pizza Surprise.
Pizza Surprise.
And I messaged Scott and I was like, hey, are we getting like any more like death metal like Sasquatches? He's like, not that I know of, but I'm gonna try to push one. I'm like, yeah.
Oh, nice.
They're so
Pizza
good.
Surprise was definitely. Pizza Surprise was that end credits was like my turning point on Great North, where I was like, okay, I like this show.
Yeah.
However, I will say, when Beef dressed up as the Babadook, yeah, and he's like, "Oh, I'm Shrek's nemesis, the Babadook." I basically missed the entire rest of the episode because I was laughing so hard, and so yeah, I had to actually stop, like relax, and then rewind and watch the rest of the episode.
There's been an ongoing debate, and nobody's really gotten to the bottom of it. But what movie did Ham watch to make him think that was Shrek? Like, how did he get Shrek?
How did he mess that up that bad?
Yeah. So what smash up of movies was he watching? Like a bootleg Babadook, maybe. That was,
I don't know,
green.
But it's brilliant.
Yeah,
it's brilliant. How Ham's brain works is just beyond all of us.
It's a beautiful mind. It really
is.
Yes,
very much
so. All right, so of course our bread and butter is Bob's Burgers, and in 2003 you made your triumphant return back to Bob's Burgers and has been full steam ahead. Your sketches on Instagram are incredible. We always love seeing you create your animation along with the final product. What can we expect looking forward as this show progresses and your little cut of like what you do?
More of the same, man. I've got not tons, but I've definitely got shots that I'm still animating on. There's shots that I've been doing red lines and boards on, where not only do I do reference for, but I've got one where Nora does reference for me, and some friends of mine have done references and stuff. So, it's more of the same. And yeah, I mean, there's going to be definitely more shots for you guys to pick out. It's like, oh, is that an Erin shot? So
at this point, it's so easy to pick one out. It's like, it's definitely an Erin.
It has to be, yeah.
We just need you to do like a static shot of something, and then like, oh, shit, we missed that.
I've done those too. I've done lots of those.
I feel like if we misinterpret an Erin shot, it's probably just a Bernard shot.
Yeah,
Because it seems
yeah,
like
definitely.
you guys are the expressives.
Yeah, but I mean, not my, but the animation crew they're all phenomenal too. And
Oh yeah.
man, we're like we're working on, I can't tell you, but I mean, we're working on another episode that like, I mean, of course, every episode I'm going to say, but man, this last episode, I'm the retake director, so I review all the animators' shots as we fix them. And man, this episode we're working on now, I'm reviewing their shots, and they're getting some really good acting in there. And I'm assuming they probably can't. I mean, I'm lucky enough to be in a position where I can pick some really funky, fun shots for me to just put a lot of time and love into, where the anim crew, it's like, yeah, you have to do 20 shots this week. So they can't really put the love that I get to into my shots. But man, they're spitting out some shots that are just, it's like, whoa, you really nailed the acting. And you really, when the audience sees these shots, they're really gonna just like get wrapped up in what the story's telling. So I'm sure I'm biased, but nevertheless, it's my first experience as any director, but yeah, as a retake director, I feel like we kind of started on The Amazing Rudy, and I feel like we've kind of just improved from there. And Amazing Rudy was like, everyone loved it so much, so it's just like, wow, we start from a pretty good spot. So
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing what later on. Like, one of my favorite shots that one of my animators, I think it was Drew, did was when Bob was watching the band. When was that? But when the band, when he was like watching
behind the stage.
Behind the stage, and when the guy says like, oh yeah, every now and then they just, everything meshes, and it, they're so happy doing what they're doing, and then that close of Bob, and you see like his mustache kind of raise into that little mini smile, and he starts getting into it and dancing. It's like, man, you nailed that shot. That was one of those shots that, like,
was that Newman?
I did the red line for it, and it's just like, it's got to be perfect. It's got to be perfect.
Yeah.
And Drew just knocked it out of the park.
They've been really picking up on those like little subtleties, like the episode where we found out Bob's mom's name's Lily. There's a scene where the kids are they're sledding down the hill, and it's a shot on Bob's face, and he cracks like an ever so slight smile. Is like a little curl of his lip, and like, bah, nailed it.
Yeah,
and, they're nailing the subtlety of it all, and that's awesome.
Yeah, it's sticking with fans because that's the parts they remember.
Yeah, and it's of course, being my first experience doing this, I'm so in love with this season. It's probably going to always be my favorite season now, but it's such a fun experience seeing. I love it whenever a shot comes through from one of the animators and it just sings, and it's like, oh, that's so good, it's such a fun experience. And then to have Tony, because I work with Tony, who's one of the top creatives of the show, and I'll just be like, yes, that's right, and Tony's like, that's good. It worked. Like, you kidding? It's fucking amazing. And he's like, oh, okay.
Comment here that I think kind of answers one of our previous questions, and what was Ham watching to think the Bob the Builder Instructor one of the same. And I apologize if I mispronounced this. Utiva says that apparently at the slumber party they started watching Shrek, and Ham fell asleep but kept waking up throughout the rest of the party, and maybe the Babadook was coming on. I was like, oh, it's still the same movie. Nice. I'm like,
He just thought it was Shrek the whole time. That makes sense.
Yeah. I'm gonna run with that. That's a good one. So we have a couple more questions here. We know you've been with us about 2 hours now, so thank you very much.
Yeah,
my pleasure.
Shooting by. Do you have a current favorite cartoon? It could be an old cartoon that you've went back and rewatched and really dug, or something that's brand new that you think people need to be hip to.
Oh man, I hate bias. I watch Bob's and I watch Great North.
It's a good choice, especially for this show.
It is, yeah. Especially for
that. I mean, I did watch. I finished Arcane, which was gorgeous. That was such a gorgeous show. And I started watching Blue Eye Samurai. I'm definitely going to finish
in the middle of that.
Yeah, me too. Well, I just started it. Well, I'm a couple episodes in, but yeah. I want to finish that. But I mean, honestly, that's really it. I play video games, so a lot of my time is dedicated to that.
Yeah.
A lot of my free time is dedicated to that. Yeah, I try to really when I was doing shows, Comic Cons, promoting band. That's when I would dedicate more time into watching TV shows and stuff. It always helps to know like who the people are dressed up as and stuff. So yeah, that was my homework while I was really pushing band, was to catch up on the pop culture. So
yeah.
But as of right now, it's like I said, Bob's and Great North, man. Those are my go-tos.
That's a common answer too. Is like I work so much on these, I don't really have time to catch up on new stuff. I catch up down the road a little, and like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
JB,
I was going to ask this one real quick before we get into the last one, but this question was brought up a little bit ago, and I know it's something because you are a retake director, which usually is the pipeline to director at some point. Is that something you would like to have? Because someone did say, like, when are you going to be directing in the future? And I know that's a what if, but is that something Erin wants?
You know what, the thing is, okay, so I worked on Great North, and I was so freaking in love with that show. I absolutely adored when I started working with Calmus. It was hands down the best experience in my entire career. I've never, like I told you before, I worked on all these other projects, and it was constantly like, well, here's what we're doing, and I really didn't have any say in it. And I tried, and every now and then a little nugget I would throw would get pushed through, but it wasn't until Great North where, Calmus kind of pulled me in with Wendy and Lizzie, and I started pitching stuff, and they started going, yeah, let's do it. And then like a couple weeks later, there it is in the final product. And I'm like, what? It was mind blowing. It's so mind blowing to be like, hey, let's try this. And they go, yeah. And there it is. It's in the final. It's a part of history now. And so it's been like, working on Great North was hands down the most rewarding thing in the start of my career. And so when I finished up, was it season 3? Yeah, season 3. Then I got the offer to work as the retake director on Bob's Burgers. And it was like, I mean, if I can't think of a better definition of bittersweet, because it was like, I had to say yes, because it's like I gotta try it. I gotta at least try it. And if I don't like it, then I can always fall back to where I was on Great North, because that was hands down the best experience I had in my career. And Matt didn't want me to go. Nobody wanted me to leave Great North, but they were all like, yeah, dude, you got to do it. You have to. And so I was like, all right, I'll do it.
It's like being called up to the big leagues is like, it's the next step. It's the next logical step.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's like, it's like being called to the big leagues, but then that means you have to leave like the Sandlot. And it's like, dude, this is the freaking coolest, So it's like, so I was like, yeah, all right, I'll do it. and it's been even. It's like what my experience with Great North. Like, I'll just say times two, where like I just have, not only do I still get to be a creative member of the team, but now I have, like, I'm a director. I get to say, like, hey, this isn't working. Let's fix that. Let's change that. This looks great. I work with the animators that are, and I help them try and get the shot to where we want it. I work close with Tony and Bernard, and it's crazy just being in this position where, like, I'm working with my team, and then I show it to Bernard, and I show it to Tony, and Tony's like, yeah, that works. And it's like, oh, cool. So this is the guy that's, like, basically the creative, like, one of the main creative people on Bob's, that I'm like, I actually have kind of a mind connection with him, that's like, okay, I kind of know what he wants, and I'll put it together and show it to him, and he'll go like, yeah, that works. And so it's a really cool experience.
Yeah.
So if they offer me the job to be a director, I'm going to assume I'm going to say yes, because I've never experienced it.
Yeah.
I might love it. I might hate it. I don't even know what to expect from it. So, but I did talk to one of my bosses, and she said, I'm on the path for it.
Yeah.
So,
well, the great thing,
that's always a good sign, but I really try to just live
in the moment.
In the moment, and try to figure out how to do this job first. I'm still learning. Learning it.
Now, the great thing from what we've heard, from what we heard from a bunch of folks, is the crew at Bob's and the crew at Bento, they're nothing if not helpful. It's a family, and everybody is there to help you out. So if you got questions, you just pick the brain of, like, Mario or Simon or Bernard.
Oh yeah,
anybody. Everyone's right there to help you. Answorth, I believe. Andy, is that correct? Answorth?
Yeah.
They had a question. I think me and JB know the answer, but maybe something has changed. Is there a secret rule on the show that Bob can never truly get a win? He sometimes gets close to victory, but it's always almost on some terribly embarrassing way. We know the standing rule has always been the family will get little wins here and there, but they're going to be
and that's straight from Lauren's mouth.
Yeah. So is anything changed, or is it just a series of small wins with a bunch of blow-ups?
Well, I do know everyone was happy that Bob got his win from the double fake wall. Everyone, I did read a lot of that, like, oh, Bob finally got a win in there. So
still not sure how he held that up, but yeah, well, I'll look past that.
But I mean, I don't know.
I would even say he got his little win with Jimmy when Jimmy did his little meatball pizza or whatever, and he's just like, I'll give it to you, Jimmy. This is one of my worst ideas. I'll get better. And I was like, wow, Bob, look at you.
Yeah.
Even Trev was like, that was inspiring.
that was another great shot that came through, and our animators just nailed it. And I was like, oh man, that's so good. So yeah, it's one of those things where, like, we'll get it from overseas, and it's just like, it's kind of there, but then, like, we give it to an animator, and they're like, and they make it sing, and it's like, oh, finally, that's what we're looking for.
We do have one question from the chat here. Trust Ego. I assume I'm saying that correctly. I'm sorry if I'm not. Who is your favorite Bob's character, and who is your favorite character to animate? Are they one the same?
Oh God.
Yeah. Choose your favorite child.
Yeah. Who knows? I mean, there's a lot of answers to that. I mean, but if I had to pick a favorite, it's from when I was working on the movie. It's got to be Teddy, because man, man, and it's Teddy all from the movie. It's when Teddy makes that cart for Bob,
Yes.
I tear up.
Mhm.
I'm like, dude, what a freaking friend, man. That's
Yeah.
like, I think he's a little self-serving because he doesn't want Bob to he wants to
Close.
but
So close,
nevertheless,
yeah.
it's like, dude, here's this guy who, oh my God, just Teddy saving the day at the end, you know, and it's like, man, that guy is so freaking cool. But,
Larry Murphy, famously the only guest we've ever had on the show to make me cry.
Yeah.
It's a sweetheart. What can I say?
Just love that in their moment of desperation, trying to get out of the clamshell car, he just runs over, and goes Olive Bar, and slams the tray. And they're like,
oh, that shot where he's shaking the car, he's shaking the Olive Bar thing. Bernard did I saw the rough of that Bernard did, and I was like, please let me animate that shot. Please let me animate that shot. And someone else got to animate it. I was like, oh man. But yeah, that was and one of the shots I did do on the movie was when Teddy runs back to the cart and he grabs the Olive Bar and runs back, and he says to King Trashmouth something. He says like, oh, don't worry about it, I'll be right back, or something like that. I can't remember what he said. But yeah, that was my shot. I got to do that. And that was the only shot where I got to animate Little King Trashmouth all on my own. I didn't have everything that I did on Bob's. Bernard did a rough pass, and so I'm just kind of following his lead. The Little King Trashmouth, that was all me. So I mean, obviously he's my boy now. So whenever I get to a chance to animate King Trashmouth, I'm like, yes, put me on that.
Nice. Well, again, can't thank you enough for 2 hours at this point. Thank you so much. We really appreciate that. Is there anything you'd like to plug? I know we asked you about cartoons, but just in general, in life. Is there anything you'd like to plug or let the folks know about? Eat your vegetables. Be a good person. The floor is yours.
Oh, man.
No pressure. Make it good.
Well, if I'm going to make it good, then check out Band. Band-comic.com. That's my other, that's my side project.
And
I've been working on
that
it
link. We'll put that link in the description below.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Yeah, I've been working on that for years. And yeah, I mean, it's like that and Bob's, man. You know, what do I watch during my off time? Bob's. What do I pimp during my off time? Bob's. It's like it's Bob's and Great North, man. That's I'm definitely a fan of the product.
It's always
was it the Hair Club for Men? Not only do I work there, but I'm a customer.
Yeah. Not only am I the spokesperson, or no, not only am I know. Well, this has been From the Great North to Wonder Wharf, your one-stop destination for bento box information. As always, I am Mike.
And I'm JB.
Special guest.
Erin Humiston.
And we will see you next week for our Bob's Burgers Valentine's Day trivia. Spectacular.
Here, I've got a trivia. I've got a trivia for you guys.
Go.
What Great North / Bob's Burgers character do I have tattooed?
Okay, so clearly it's a character on. Wait, is there a character that's on both, or is it two tattoos?
No. You got to pick a character of one of those two shows.
Oh, okay. So you have a tattoo. Who is it? Okay. Well, I gotta figure, JB. This is just me and you talking. He can't hear us right now. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's gotta be something he's worked on. Obviously, the wolf freaking out is very.
That'd be fun. That'd be a fun tattoo as well.
But then there's Moon with the skunk. I
feel like that alone would be a fun tattoo. So I think you have to go Moon with the skunk.
But then he also did the Bob's movie.
He did. So Grover with the spear gun?
Either Grover. Okay, Aaron. It's a character, right? Not like a little prop or nothing. Okay, it's a character.
Or.
Okay,
is it the king?
I'm leaning. Okay, then I'm leaning towards Trashmouth. Or is it the cart? Because it's a character. The cart's not a character.
I don't know. People are weighing in on the chat.
Oh, what's the chat saying? We'll go with the
They're
chat.
saying wolf, beef squatch,
I'm getting ready.
and
Uh
little.
oh. Here's the reveal. I'm gonna.
Ready for the
I'm
reveal?
gonna say. JD, what's your final guess?
I'll go trash mouth.
All right, I will go Grover.
Go what?
Grover
Grover.
from the movie.
Grover?
Yeah.
Oh, beef?
Oh, none of the above. God bless it. Why beef?
I told you that was my first time in my career where it really turned around.
Why?
Was on Great North.
Ah,
So the plan is I am planning on a Grover,
yeah.
but I'm gonna do Bob, Grover, and then Nimona.
All
Nice.
profile shots, right?
What's that?
All profile shots.
Oh, maybe we'll see.
Okay.
I'm
Be a nice
surprised
little
beef
sleep.
isn't saying hot dog.
All right, everybody. On that note, we will see you next week, 8 p.m. Eastern, of course. You
Yep.
can always catch the replays of these episodes anytime on youtube.com. We do have a Patreon. Links in the bio. No harm, no foul. If you
Yeah.
can't, the show's not going to get any better if you do. So
No.
this is what you're stuck.
It won't.
So
It just
Thank
helps
you again,
pay the
Erin.
prizes.
Thank you.
We'll catch you next week.
See you
Cheers.
guys.
Thanks, guys.